All right, welcome to the first interview of the first day of SecT. We did some interviews yesterday
at the community
night,
yeah.
but this is the first real one, and we have Trammell here, who just came off the stage, opening up SecT 2022.
In a true hacker manner,
yes.
Tinkering with home appliances.
Yeah, and hopefully, hopefully a fun talk to get folks thinking about security and reverse engineering.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's no world change in 0 days got dropped. This was just a fun thing, something to do with your home appliances and
classic void your warranty talk.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Apparently, there might have been people from the vendors in the audience. So
that's pretty funny.
I'm hoping to meet up with them and chat later.
Yeah, cool. So you were sort of reaching out a hand and saying, I'd like to see this, become part of their official offering, and I think that's really cool. And I think a lot of companies would probably benefit from making this available.
And it's also something where the people who are building smart homes and doing home automation are, frankly, nerds.
Yes.
And they're going to be the early adopters who would be interested in, hey, there is a local REST API that I can use to talk to my appliance.
Yep.
That's actually a selling point for a small percentage of the population.
Yes.
But,
yes, I think.
Yeah.
No, but I don't know, like in Sweden nowadays, the electric bill is really, really expensive. So home automation and monitoring of appliances such as this is actually a thing now. Like it's on the rise. Like Home Assistant, like the open source Home Assistant project has so many new adopters. You can see how many that clones the repos, and ESP Home or Tasmota, that is like this open source firmware. There's a huge stream there. So I totally agree that should be a thing where you're able to sort of integrate with a REST API or be able to put an open source firmware on there in order to serve your purpose.
Right. And the energy prices are also really a driver for things like the power aware scheduling.
Sure.
To be able to say, let's not start the dishwasher until power is cheap or available. Let's not run the dishwasher while we're also running the dryer. These are things that are fairly easy to do in a home automation system, but are very challenging to do in the vendor-provided apps, especially if you have a dishwasher from one vendor and laundry from another. And
the heater, or the what do you call it, the warm water heater? Is that a thing? Yeah? Or whatever you want to. So that's pretty cool, and I think the era of that is just getting started. Like to be self-sufficient and be your own producer, and like benefiting of these spot prices when it's cheap. You do the laundry. It's pretty cool. So it's actually you're in perfect timing, I guess, for this.
I
think there's a lot of interest now.
Yeah, and the other thing that I think is really underrepresented in a lot of the home automation is the accessibility aspect.
Yeah.
The fact that not everyone can see a touch screen and interact with it, but all of these devices are now coming with with caps and buttons everywhere that that sometimes change their function.
Yeah.
So being able to build customized devices that then interact with a wide variety of systems becomes very useful.
Yeah, I thought that was a really nice take on the reasoning why you would want to do something like this, because the accessibility it will limit some people from buying an appliance because they might have a problem with their eyesight or something like that, and being able to build a sort of a control panel for them. That's
pretty.
Awesome.
That's a cool aspect as well. But I'm guilty of that. Like when I pick out a new appliance in my home, I try to see if there is a REST API key. It doesn't have to be on the actual client devices, but can I chain it so I can have, like, for example, Home Assistant do the queries?
Yes.
And sort of run the app, but in a different context. So that is one way of going. But this is I think should be an opt-in or out thing. Do you want to integrate to your own sort of thing?
Right.
That would be an awesome feature to have, because like in aspects of security and breaking the device, that should not be the case, because you should be binary on which functions you're able to sort of run. You can't put the centrifuge more than the X amount of blah blah blah.
Yes, yes.
Like, you know what I'm going. Like, so
Yeah,
it could be like you can build your own integration using the functionality as it's intended. Of course, you can break stuff, but I think that would be a cool way of doing it, because no one does that.
Right. And something you mentioned earlier about you want to be able to install your own firmware on devices. So things like Tesmodo make that possible with some sort of things. And you know, with devices that have large motors or kilowatt sort of capabilities, you know, sometimes we might say, well, maybe we don't want to install our own firmware there quite yet.
Because things can actually happen, like reverse polarity, and like the motor start to spin in the wrong direction, or phase shifting, and that could be really bad.
Exactly. So so I really like the ability to put my own firmware on devices. You know, so many of my projects are about that. The MicroPython for IKEA light bulbs completely replaces the IKEA firmware. 100% of it. But the worst you can do is make the light turn on and off. There's really
nothing else.
It's not getting 3 kilowatts of power coming through there.
A heater, on the other hand, could potentially do exactly that.
And then in other cases, like on the Magic Lantern firmware for the Canon cameras, there I didn't want to replace the Canon firmware because it did 95% of what I needed. I just wanted to make some small tweaks to make them slightly more suited for what I needed.
Oh, is that how it works? So it's sort of a sidecar thing?
Yes.
Okay, so you run it on a memory card and then you have the native...
Yes.
Okay. I thought it was a replacement, but it isn't. So
it doesn't replace. No.
Okay.
So it actually the camera will boot off the memory card. And then the Magic Lantern firmware hooks some functions in the real firmware, and then jumps into the real firmware.
Cool.
And then when the firmware reaches that stage during its initialization, this extra user code gets called that then can create threads, it can create GUI elements, it can interact with the buttons and the hardware. But all of the OEM firmware is still there in ROM, unchanged.
That's pretty cool. That's cool.
Because they've done really good work on a lot of it. And
I know Peter ran it a couple of years ago. He's not in screen, but the more bearded guy.
He's a videographer.
He has all the stuff. Here he is now. No, there he is. There. It's
So I think there's a whole spectrum of completely open source firmware on the device to running alongside the closed firmware to totally closed. Now, frankly, I would love if things like the menuing system on the dishwasher and whatnot were perhaps fixable. There's not so much in the dishwasher, but the oven has some frustrations where I would really like to be able to add my own menu elements. And right now I don't have code execution on the device. No? My talk is purely about the communication protocol. But maybe in the future.
Which manufacturer do you have for the oven? Can you say it?
Yes, well, these are you can see it in the talk. It's I believe it's a Bosch.
Because I have a Siemens.
Bosch and Siemens are basically the same.
So Siemens has they have a hack. So you're like a thing in Sweden is now everyone is into pizza.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're gonna do a nice pizza, you need to have a stone or a cast iron plate in your oven.
Yes.
Right? But you want as high temperature as possible. And these fairly new ovens have, what is it called? I can't, the English word, I don't know, but it's sort of pyrolysis, where it's super hot as a cleaning function.
Pyrolysis.
Is that a thing? So it sort of burns off everything. It's a higher setting that you're able to put on when you're going to make your pizza.
Right.
But then some smart person out there figured out how you can enable since the function of burning everything off in the oven is there, how you can hack it so you can get it a lot warmer, which is perfect for the pizza mode. So that is actually a hack out there. There's a combination that you have to do.
Oh, so you've got to do up, down, left, right, jump, start.
Exactly, like ABB, like exactly that. But so it's a cheat code on your Siemens oven to get it to work, and it actually works. It's pretty cool. But that's like in the same idea. That's like void your warranty, but it is a cool function. I need to have this, and they spend time figuring it out.
But I think it's like, there's this movement towards you want to own your devices. You want to be in control. You don't want your device to be controlled by the cloud, for instance.
No, but I think when privacy concepts are getting more out there, people know how data harvesting or user data is actually collected and sold. I think this will be a turn of events where. But I guess like we as sort of nerds or geeks in this field, we already see that in home automation, when home automation is not proprietary anymore, where we have the open source stuff, and we see like there is a lot of adopters there. So I think this will I think this is a natural path, I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
Don't you think?
Yes.
That people was like, I don't want it to be in the cloud.
Right. And the other aspect of this sort of openness is it's easier to repair, and it's easier to keep things going. And
debug and everything,
as we look at sort of this desire to keep appliances running longer, to be able to reduce the amount of e-waste that we're putting into the system.
True.
Being
That's
able
actually a valid point as well. I didn't even think about it. E-waste is actually probably a really sound thing for the environment. It's just a screen that died.
Yeah.
So
Good.
Yeah. No worries. I've been checking both.
So being able to adapt them to different needs or to prolong their use, and not. Big appliances, it's maybe less of an issue. Most people keep their dishwashers and their ovens for many years. The one that we bought, again, because it has the auto open door, replaced one that had been in our house for 15 years. So that's a pretty good longevity.
That's a good longevity
compared to a phone. But a lot of our dashboards are built out of around the house are built out of old Kindles or old phones that because we can install our own firmware, that then we can interface with our own home automation, suddenly they don't go into the e-waste stream, that they find new life. And this is, I think, a really good reason for being able to build
I
open
agree
firmware.
100%. I did like the whole rabbit hole thing with dashboards in my home now. So I have like this tablets in our hallway where everything is more or less integrated, more like a display thing. But they can sort of see if the doors are open, if the dishwasher is running, if the car is charging.
And it's so much more convenient than pulling a phone out to be like and scrolling through 6 different apps.
Right? Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. And I said it yesterday as well. I get so excited being at a conference like this because there is a lot of like-minded people. It gives you so much energy.
You don't feel that as lonely as you do
the
other
like
364
you feel like a different
days.
species when you're sort of talking with my wife about this. She's like, I don't want to hear this. But this is like a nice input, guys. It's really fun.
My partner is fully sold on the all of the automations that they help write the Python scripts. And
to be fair, like she was so against it. It will never work. It will break all the time. I just want it to work. But now she's like, she actually likes it, but it's not that nothing is dependent on it. But it's actually a nice feature to have. So it's pretty cool. Like she learns to like it.
Cool. Well, Trammell, thank you so much for taking the time.
Question.
Peter, that's a question.
Hello.
Welcome.
Yeah. Like this slide here, you were running Anima.
Yes.
Against doing TLS enumeration. And what it says that the dishwasher supported TLS null with null with null.
Yes. So there was that question came up during the Q&A as well, and I didn't notice that until I put the slide together, and I never.
Because that can't be good for anything. It's rubbish.
So I'm going to go back. Actually, I could SSH in to.
That's nice.
I could do the set up the WireGuard tunnel, get into our home network, and then I could.
Yeah, so you never tested that.
They tested the old null bytes.
Because it's interesting. Like, does it even work?
Yeah.
Or if.
But it should work. But the integrity of it should be terrible.
Right.
It's non-existent.
But let's also consider what is the threat model here.
A man in the middle, something that
but
I want to know.
Is it the same thing being offered with that? Okay, so that is not tested.
Not yet tested. Though I also want to point out that different models of the appliances have HTTP interfaces instead of HTTPS. But on the ones that are doing HTTP, they are doing their own AES, CBC, and HMAC wrappers around all of the WebSocket data.
That's something, though.
That's really good.
Yeah. You say at AES, so it's not only CBC.
Decent German engineering.
It's
we can hope. But we've seen a lot of stuff like that where you sort of like, well, this takes too much bytes, so let's just pad it with zeros because that's easier.
No, the padding algorithm looks good.
Yeah,
good. They're doing proper. It's been a few months since I actually looked at it. But they are doing.
It looks solid.
And overall, I haven't actually seen any of the code on the devices. I haven't gotten code execution on the appliances, but all of the stuff sort of around it makes me feel that somebody who knew cryptography at least looked at it and gave them some advice.
We didn't ask this, and I didn't. To be honest, I was a bit late to the talk, but I saw almost all of it in the screen. But is it what kind of operating system is it? Have you figured that one, or is it a real time, or how does it work? Is it like
I should have put a slide about that.
U-boot or?
I don't know anything about that, but I do know. I think it's their web server is called Nebula, and I've been meaning to do some searches to try to see if that's like an off-the-shelf thing that they've bought, or if it's something maybe that they built in-house. I don't know, but that is that one string is the only sort of clue that I've seen as to what's inside.
Because Bosch, they do a lot of computers, like everyone that has sort of connected into the car world know that they have this amazing. No, not amazing. Amazingly weird monolith structure with their ECUs, for example, and that would be like, even if you get code execution, it would be terrible because it will more or less be like a real-time OS.
Well, my Canon camera stuff, I'm pretty experienced digging into.
Yeah, of course not, but not for like a home tinkerer. Like I would be like the path of reversing that and getting something nice out of it is really hard if you haven't looked at that.
Yes. They can be
steep learning curve,
and especially because you can't look at the source code or examples. I love pulling apart devices that are running Linux because I can load that file system into my desktop machine. I can poke at it, and typically things are written in shell scripts, so it's something like, my job is easy. Compared to some RTOS that has to fit in 32 kilobytes of flash. That's a much more challenging reverse engineering target.
Yeah, and like monolith structures where everything just have their own sort of confined space enclave. Like here we do this, and then you can do telnet to this, and here we do that, and blah blah blah. So it's really hard to.
Yeah. It is sort of fascinating when you do get into the static analysis with things like Ghidra. You can almost start to identify different groups inside the company that wrote the different modules. That there's like style choices that make it all the way into the binary.
That's pretty cool.
And so it's occasionally I've seen things where I can definitely say this company bought a USB library from someone. They bought their FAT file system library from somebody else. And then they had two different teams, doing the GUI versus the threading.
That's pretty cool.
So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, but I guess that makes sense when you looked at a lot of it. Like you see, like if you do like a graphical overview or something, and then you can sort of see how everything flows. That would be a lot different if you built file systems a lot. I guess they have a lot more edge cases, like if then else or things, and that will be sort of blocks in your your chain. So that will be visible. That's pretty good. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And a lot of it shows up like, a lot of times they'll have like different logging libraries that they've linked in. So, the file systems log in one way and the task management logs in another way. And so you get those sort of clues.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right.
Yeah.
So let's wrap.
Yep.
Thank you again for taking the time to talk to us. And enjoy the rest of the conference.
Yes, it's wonderful to be back in Stockholm. It's after a few years in the Netherlands, this feels very three-dimensional.
Yeah.
I think I've climbed more hills in the past day than I have in the past 3 years.
Yeah. In the Netherlands, you have to look for hills, really.
Yeah. Swim up.
Yep. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.